Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week. And if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. For today's tutorial, we're keeping the holiday vibes going with a stylish bomber sure to turn heads at every holiday function. This bomber is made of using the Trinity stitch, a peppermint candy colorway with small hints of green, and pockets. Another classic made cool. Speaking of, if you're looking for more new and fun takes on classics, you are in the right place. We have hundreds of modern crochet tutorials and patterns dropping twice weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 650 grams of yarn. That's 1,320 yards if you're stateside, and the individual measurements will be on the screen. As for tools, a 5.5mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us the last time you did your nails. I do my nails at least once a week so that they look nice for the tutorials. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 6 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, and Trinity stitch. This tutorial is made for a size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we'll explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this cardigan started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're all going to grab our 5.5mm hook and start by making a prep chain. Now, we aren't actually going to be using this prep chain for our cardigan. We just want to know how many chains we need to make when we're getting started on our chain, but we're doing it this way because we are going to need to be switching out our colors. We're all going to start by making an odd number chain that reaches from the base of our neck down to where I'd like the bottom of this cardigan to be, keeping in mind that we are going to have a bottom band as well. So you can make this cropped or full length. I would like for mine to be somewhere in between, so I'm going to start by making a chain that is 12 inches or 31 centimeters. That's going to be a chain of 41 for me. Alright, so we are back. I've made a chain for the total amount that I would like for the front of my front panel to be. Now we're all going to need to insert our stitch marker into that middle stitch. We should all have just one middle stitch since we had an odd number of stitches. For those of you that had my numbers, I inserted my stitch marker into the 21st stitch. We're going to get started on the actual front panel of our cardigan. So grabbing our primary color first, which our primary color is going to be the color that is on the bottom of our cardigan, that is not the bottom band. We're going to start by making a chain for the same amount of chains as the first half of our chain right here, not including that middle chain. So since I inserted my stitch marker into the 21st stitch, I'm going to make a chain of 20, and then I will meet you back. So we are back. I now have my first half of my chain. Now from here, we're going to switch out to our secondary color yarn, and then we're going to finish off the chain for the rest amount of stitches that we made. So for those of you that had my numbers, since I have a total of 20 chains here, and for my prep chain, I made a total of 41 chains, I'm going to be inserting my secondary color yarn onto my hook and continuing until I have a total of 41 chains. So what we're going to do is take our secondary color yarn, make a slip knot, insert that slip knot onto our hook, and pull through. Now what I like to do from here is just tie a loose knot with my tail end and my primary color yarn's working yarn. So now that we have secured our secondary color to our primary color yarn, we're going to finish off our chain. So like I said, I'm going to be continuing on with my secondary color yarn now until I have the total amount of chains that we made for my prep chain. I'm going to be doing an additional 21 chains, and then I will meet you back. Alright, so we are back. My total foundation chain is complete. Now we're going to get started on our Trinity stitch. So from where we're at, we're all going to block off that last chain and do a chain 1. Now that chain 1 does not count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then to do our Trinity stitch, the first Trinity stitch set will be done differently than all the other ones, so let's get that started together. We're going to start by inserting our hook into the second chain from our hook, or into that second chain that we blocked off with a single crochet. So bring your hook down into that second chain from our hook, starting with just one single crochet. So pull through 2. Now once when that single crochet is completed, we're all going to need to pull up 4 loops. So how we're going to do that is starting with inserting our hook into that same chain that our single crochet is in, we're going to insert and pull up a loop for 2 loops on our hook. Then into that following chain, we're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop for 3, then into that following chain, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop for 4. Once we have all 4 loops on our hook, we're all going to yarn over, pull through all 4 of those loops, and then finish off our Trinity stitch with a chain 1. Now we want to make sure that we're not pulling too tightly after that chain 1, otherwise the following row can be a little too tight to work into. Now that is our first Trinity stitch completed. Now let's do the rest of our Trinity stitches. Now for the rest of our Trinity stitches, we are still going to need to pull up 4 loops. So how we're going to do that is start by inserting our hook into the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch is worked into. So that stitch will be occupied, and this is mine right here. I'm going to insert my hook into that chain, pull through. Then to pull up another loop, insert your hook into that following chain, pull up a loop for 3, and then into that following chain to pull up one more loop for 4 loops. Then when we have those 4 loops, yarn over and pull through all 4. And then remember to finish off our Trinity stitch, chain 1 to complete it. Now we're going to continue on with this Trinity stitch, so let's do this again. We're all going to start by inserting our hook into the last chain that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, pull through for 2 loops. Into that following chain, insert, pull through for 3 loops on our hook, and into that following chain, pull through for 4 loops on our hook. Then all together, yarn over, pull through all 4, and chain 1. Let's do one more just a little bit faster. So what we're going to do is insert our hook into that same chain that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into. So insert, pull through. Into that next chain, pull through, and into the chain right after that, and pull through for 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over and pull through all 4. And to close off this Trinity stitch, chain 1. Now from here, we're going to continue on with our Trinity stitch, making our way all the way down until we have 2 stitches left with this first color right here. So we are back. We have made our way down with our Trinity stitch, and we should all have 1, 2 chains left with this color. Now this next Trinity stitch is going to be done exactly the same way as all of our other ones, but we are going to be switching out our color as well. So getting this started, we're all going to start by inserting our hook into the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, pull through. Into that following chain, pull through, and into the chain right after that, which should be the last chain that we have with this color, yarn over and pull through. Now when we have these 4 loops on our hook, we're all going to yarn over, pull through all 4. Then instead of doing a chain 1 with this color, we're going to drop this color, and we do want to make sure that when we drop this color, before we start working on the next color, we're going to bring this forward down towards us. If we let it fall behind our work, then the working yarn may be a little bit harder to grab when we get started on the following row. So make sure that this is falling forward, and you're just going to leave that there. And then we're just simply going to yarn over with our following color and pull through, and that is our chain with this color. Then from here, we're going to continue on with the same Trinity stitch that we've been doing, but now with this color. So let's just get started. We're all going to insert our hook into the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch is worked into. Mine would be with this other color right here. We're going to insert, yarn over, and pull through. Then we're going to continue to pull up our loops. So into that following chain, I'm going to insert, pull through. Into that following chain, insert, pull through. When we have these 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 4 of those loops, and chain 1 to close off our Trinity stitch per usual. From here, we're going to continue on with the same Trinity stitch that we've been doing, making our way all the way down until we have 2 chains left. So we are back. We have made our way all the way down with our first Trinity stitch row. We should all have 2 chains left. Now, the last Trinity stitch is going to be done just a little bit differently than all of our other ones as well. So we're all going to get this started together. We have just finished up our last Trinity stitch with a chain 1, which is per usual. Then our following Trinity stitch is going to start off the same way as all of our other ones. We're going to start by inserting our hook into that last stitch that our last Trinity stitch is worked into that following chain, which is our second to last, pull through, and then into that following chain, which is our last, pull through. We should all have 4 loops on our hook. Then we're all going to yarn over, pull through all 4. Then we're all going to single crochet into that same last stitch. So for the last one only, we are not going to close off the row with a chain 1. All we're going to do is just insert our hook into that same last chain with a single crochet. And that's it. Our row 1 is now complete. Now what we're going to do from here is our row 2. Now our odd and even numbered rows, when it comes to doing the color change, is a little bit different, but the Trinity stitches are all going to be the same. So let's get this started. Since we're along the end, we're all going to chain 1 and flip. So as a refresher, getting started with our first Trinity stitch, that's going to start with 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Now, next we're going to be inserting our hook into that same stitch that our single crochet is in, pull through for 2 loops on our hook. Into that following stitch, pull through for 3 loops, and into the stitch right after that, pull through for 4 loops on our hook. When we have these 4 loops, we're all going to yarn over and pull through all 4 of those loops, chain 1, and our first Trinity stitch for our row 2 is complete. Let's get started on the following Trinity stitch. So we're all going to start by inserting our hook into the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, pull through. Into that following stitch, pull through, then into the stitch right after that, pull through for 4 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 1 to complete. Let's just do one more a little bit faster. So starting with the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, pull through. Into that next stitch, pull through, stitch right after that, pull through all 4 loops, then chain 1. From here, we're going to continue on with this Trinity stitch, making our way down until we just have 1 stitch left with this color that we're working on. So we are back and we are in the middle of our row 2. We've made our way down with our Trinity stitch until we had just 1 stitch left with this color right here. Now we're going to be doing the next Trinity stitch, which is going to be per usual, but we are going to need to combine this color with this color to get a clean line. So what we're all going to do is start by inserting our hook into the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, pull through, into that following stitch, which should still be this first color, pull through for 3 loops on our hook. Now we still need 4 loops on our hook, so we're now going to drop this color and grab our other color. But remember, whenever we drop a color, we're going to want to bring this forward, down towards us to make it easier for the following row to grab it. And what we're going to do is grab our next color and insert our hook into that following stitch, pull through for now 4 loops on our hook, so this part is per usual. Then we're all going to yarn over and pull through all 4 and chain 1 to finish up this 1 Trinity stitch. And now from here, we're going to do the rest of our Trinity stitches per usual. So just to do the next one together, into the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, pull through, next, pull through, next, pull through. When we have these 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 4, and continue on with our Trinity stitch until we all have 2 stitches left again, so we can do our last one together. So we have made our way down with our row 2. We should all have 2 stitches left, and now we're going to do our last Trinity stitch. So it's going to be done pretty much the same way as the last one from our previous row. So as a refresher, we're going to insert our hook into the last stitch from our previous Trinity stitch, pull through, into that second to last, pull through, and into that last, pull through for 4 loops on our hook. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through all 4, and after we pull through all 4, just for this last one, we're going to single crochet into that same last stitch. So we will not be chaining up. We're going to insert our hook into that last stitch with just 1 single crochet, and now our row 2 is complete. Now from here, it is going to be a repeat of our 2 previous rows, but I just want to make sure that we have the color change down correctly. So we're just going to be doing the color change for the following 2 rows, and I'll let you do the rest on your own. So since our following row is going to be a row 3, we're going to chain 1, flip our work, do the same Trinity stitches that we've been doing this entire time, and if you guys need a timestamp, all those timestamps will be linked in the description. We're just going to continue on with the Trinity stitch with this color, making our way all the way down until we have 2 stitches left with this color, and then I'll meet you guys back. We have made our way down, and our row 3's color change is about to commence. So how this is going to work, we should all have 2 stitches left with this color. So every odd number row color change, we're going to start by inserting our hook into the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, pull through into that next stitch, pull through, then into that next stitch, which should be the last stitch with this color. We're going to insert, pull through. When we have these 4 loops on our hook, we're all going to yarn over and pull through all 4. Then we still need to do our chain 1, but for every odd number row, we're going to let go of this color yarn, making sure that we're bringing it down towards us. Then we're going to grab our following color yarn and chain 1 and pull through, and that is going to count as this Trinity stitch's chain 1. Then we're going to continue on with our Trinity stitch per usual. So into the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, pull through, next stitch, pull through, stitch right after that, pull through for 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 1. Continue on with this Trinity stitch row to reach the end. We are back. Our first 1, 2, 3 rows are complete. Now let's just get started on our row 4, and then I'll let you do the rest on your own. So from where we're at, we're all going to chain 1, flip our work, do our Trinity stitches all the way down until we have 1 stitch left with this first color right over here. So we are back. We are about to do the color change for our even number row, or our row 4, and we should all have just 1 stitch left with this first color. So what we're going to do is start off our Trinity stitch per usual. So with our first color yarn still, we're going to insert our hook into the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, pull through. Into that following stitch, pull through for 3 loops on our hook. Then we're going to need to insert our hook into that following stitch, but that is going to be our next color. So we're just going to bring this first color down towards us, and we're going to drop it. Then we're going to grab our next color, insert our hook into that next stitch, pull through. Then when we have these 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 4 loops, chain 1 to complete this Trinity stitch, and then continue on with our Trinity stitch per usual. So we are back, and our first 1, 2, 3, 4 rows are complete. From here, all we're going to do is continue to repeat just our 2 previous rows until we have a front panel portion that can reach from mid-chest, across our chest over to mid-collarbone. Then I'll meet you back after an odd number of rows. Now, just as a really quick tip, if you guys need timestamps on how to do the first, the last, or any of the other Trinity stitches, they will be linked in the description, along with the color changes as well. We are back, and the width of the first half of my front panel is complete. Now, I have a total of 15 rows. This width is roughly 5 inches or 13 centimeters. Now, we're going to get started on our pocket slit. So as you guys can see, I have already inserted my stitch markers right where I'd like for my pocket to be. So how this is going to work is we're all going to need to make sure that our work is flipped right side up. So our primary color yarn is going to be along the bottom, with our hook along the bottom as well, since we all should have ended off right after an odd number row. Then from here, within the bottom section of our colors, which is my primary color yarn, that is going to be where our pocket lays. So within these stitches, insert your stitch marker where you'd like for your pocket to be. Now, counting from the bottom, I've inserted my stitch marker into the 5th, and then also into the 20th stitch, which just so happens to be my last stitch with my primary color yarn. That's roughly 4.5 inches, or 11 centimeters total. So once we have decided right where we want our pocket slit to be, what we're all going to do is insert our hook into one of our stitch marker stitches. It doesn't matter which one. Then we're going to make a chain for the same amount of stitches that we have from stitch marker to stitch marker. Now for those of you that have my numbers, from this stitch marker all the way down to this stitch marker, I have a total of 14 stitches. We are then going to make a chain of that total amount of stitches, so for me, 14. And then I'm going to slip stitch it into that next stitch marker stitch. So my hook is already in through there. So all we're going to do is yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then we can get started on the following row per usual. So from here, this piece is going to be done the same way that we've been doing it this entire time, but just this first row is going to be worked into the chain. All we're going to do is continue to repeat these rows till we now have a front panel that can reach from mid-chest to 2 inches past the tip of our shoulder. Then I'll meet you back after a total of odd number rows, and as a really quick tip, every row should still have the same amount of stitches as chains made. We are back. We have just finished up the entirety of my right front panel. Now I have a total of 25 rows. My width is roughly 8.5 inches or 21 centimeters. Now we're going to get started on the shoulder. So first things first, we're all going to make sure that our work is flipped right side up, right side out, meaning the secondary color that we have, so the section that does not have the pocket slit is along the top. And also making sure that the pocket slit is along the left. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into the top corner stitch. Then we're going to do a single crochet row with our secondary color yarn. So all we're going to do is insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Then all we're going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So starting with our first side row, I'm going to insert my hook with 1 single crochet. Into my next side row, which is this one right here, I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. So there's 1. Then into that same top loop with a second single crochet. And that's it. Let's do this again. I'm going to start by finding my next side row. This is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 1 single. Then into my next side row, find that top loop and insert with 2. And that's basically it for this section. We're going to continue on with this row until we don't have any more side rows left. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back. Alright, so our single crochet row is now complete with our secondary color yarn. And now we're going to do another single crochet row with our primary color. So we're all going to start by inserting our hook into the same corner that our secondary color single crochet row started in. Then we're just going to be putting 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then I'll meet you back at the end of the row, making sure that this is our primary color. Alrighty, so we have made our way down with our second single crochet row. This one was with our primary color yarn. Now we're going to get started with the height of our shoulder portion. So right after that single crochet row, we should have all done a chain up of 1 and cut. Then we're going to reinsert our hook again into the innermost corner of our front panel. Then we're going to insert our primary color yarn onto our hook again. We're going to pull through and start with a chain 2, and this is going to start off the same for every single size. So we're all going to start with an increase of 3 half double crochets into the same stitch that our chain 2 is in. Now that chain 2 doesn't actually count as a stitch. What we're going to do is yarn over into that first stitch with 1 half double, into that same first stitch with a second, then into that same first stitch with a third. Now we need to connect it into the base. Now the way that we're going to be connecting it into the base is going to be by slip stitching it into that following stitch into the base. Now it's just going to be for this first row. So into that next available stitch, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch. That's just to connect. Then we need to work our way up to the following row. So into that next stitch into the base, slip stitch into there. That slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch either, and flip our work. Now all we're going to do from here is 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch and an increase of 2 into the last one. So yarn over, finding that first stitch from our previous row, not into any of those slip stitches into the base, insert into that back loop or the loop that's furthest away from us with 1 half double. Now since we should have all started off the same, we should have 1 more back loop half double crochet to do. So just into that following with a second back loop half double. Then we should all have just 1 stitch left, and into that last stitch an increase of 2 back loop half doubles. So yarn over, into that last back loop with 1, and then into that same last back loop with a second half double. Now let's get started on our row 3. So chain 2 and flip. Now getting started on any odd number row, we're always going to start it with an increase of 3 back loop half doubles. So yarn over into that first stitch, insert with 1. There we go, same first back loop with a second, and then same first back loop with a third, then continue with 1 back loop half double crochet into the rest of our stitches. Now from here on out, how we're going to be connecting our odd number row into the base is going to be by counting up the next 2 available stitches into the base. So here's my first, here's my second. Into that second stitch into the base, I'm going to insert with a slip stitch. Remembering that any of our slip stitches into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then, to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next stitch into the base, like that, flip our work, and then put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last one so we can do that increase together as well. We have put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last. Now at the end of every even number row, we're going to be doing an increase of 2 back loop half doubles. So yarn over into that last back loop with 1, and then with 2, and that's it. From here, we're going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows, making sure we're connecting it into the base the same way that we've been doing this entire time, until this portion that we have can reach the top of our shoulder. Now we do need to make sure that this corner that we have right here stays at the base of our neck, and then once we have this total shoulder height, I'll meet you guys back right after an even number row or along the top so we can finish up our shoulder portion together. Alrighty, so we are back. I've just finished up the increased portion of my shoulder detail. I have a total of 12 rows. The height that I have is roughly 5 inches or 13 centimeters. Now what we're going to do from here is just plain back loop half double crochet rows with no more increases, with no decreases, until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. So since we should all be along the top, all we're going to do is chain 2, flip our work, put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, connecting it into the base the same way that we've been doing, and then 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, make our way back up. Continue to repeat those 2 rows, like I said, with no increases, no decreases, until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back to get started on the other front panel. Alrighty, so we are back. The entirety of my shoulder detail is complete, therefore the entirety of my front panel is complete. Now what we're all going to do from here is the left front panel. Now doing the body for the left front panel, the technique is going to be done exactly the same way. So the same way we do the color changes for the same amount of stitches per color. The only difference is that instead of working from the innermost corner out to the shoulder, we're going to be working from the shoulder into the middle of the chest. And we're doing it that way because this isn't reversible. As you guys can see, we have some extra stitches along the back that we don't really want to see. So what we're all going to do from here is do our same Trinity stitch detail that we have been doing this entire time, but we're going to be doing it for the same amount of rows that we have from our last shoulder row all the way in until we have our pocket slit. And then I'll meet you guys back just to show you what we're going to be doing with the pocket slit, even though it's going to be done pretty much the exact same way. So since I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows on this side of my pocket slit, I will meet you guys back when I have a total of 10 rows for my other side. Alrighty, so we are back. We have just finished up the first portion of our left front panel. Like I said, counting from my shoulder row into my pocket slit, I have 10 rows. So on this side, I had 10 rows as well. Now I've ended along the top, but everything is still going to be done exactly the same way. So all we're going to do from here is do the same thing that we did for this first pocket slit. So start by inserting your stitch markers into the same stitches that you guys inserted into for this first pocket slit right over here. For those of you that have my numbers, I inserted my stitch marker into the 5th, and that is from the bottom. The bottom is going to be our primary color yarn. And into the 20th stitch from the bottom. Those are my numbers. Then from here, we're going to take our primary color yarn, make a chain from stitch marker to stitch marker for the same amount of stitches that we have right here. And then we're just going to continue on with our rows until we have the same amount of total rows as this panel right over here. Then once we have that, we can get started on this side's shoulder portion. Alrighty, we are back. The entirety of my left front panel is complete. Now we're just going to do the shoulders together. So just to make sure that we're all on the same page, when our work is flipped right side up, the pockets that we have should be on the outer edge of our panels. So as you can see, I have just a little bit more width along the inner sides of the panel versus on the other side of the pocket. That's the way I wanted mine to look. So just make sure that you're placing your panels on the right side. And then from here, we're going to get started on the shoulder. So it's going to be done pretty much the same way as the front panel. We're just going to need to insert our hooks into a different spot because we want to show the front of the single crochet rows to make sure that everything looks as clean as possible. So what we're all going to do is take our same hook and insert it into the top right hand corner of our left front panel that we have just finished up together. And then we're going to single crochet across the top using our secondary color yarn. We're going to do the same single crochet row that we did on this side. So we're going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. We should end up with the same amount of stitches as this side. And then once we have that single crochet row completed, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then we're going to do a second single crochet row with our primary color yarn. So insert your hook into the same top corner stitch of our previous single crochet row and put 1 single crochet into every stitch again. Now when our primary color single crochet row is completed, do not do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back just to show you how we're going to be doing our shoulder portion from there. So we are back. We have just finished up both of our single crochet rows. The first one was with our secondary color yarn, did a chain up of 1 and cut. Second one was with our primary, we did not do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now from here, since we all should be along the inside of our panel, we can now just get started with the same exact shoulder portion that we did when we got started on the other side. So from here, just chain 2, flip your work into that first stitch, start with an increase of 3. Then we're just going to continue on with the same increase rows. Once we have the same amount of rows for that portion, continue on with just our back loop half double crochet rows until we don't have any more stitches left. So an exact repeat of the other side. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut. We are back and both of our front panels are now complete. Now from here, we're going to get started on the back panel, so we can put these away for now. So as you guys can see, I have already gotten started on the main portion of the back panel, which is going to be done exactly the same as the main portion of the front panel, minus the pocket slit, because obviously this is the back. So all we're going to do is we're going to take our same colors, and we're going to get started with the chain the same exact way we did for both of the front panels. We're going to switch out our colors the same way that we did for the front panels, and we're just going to continue to do this until we have a back panel portion that can reach from 2 inches past the tip of our shoulder, across our back till we're 2 inches past the tip of our other shoulder. And then once we have that, I'll meet you guys back so we can get started on the height of the shoulder portion together. So we are back. Since we have the width of the back panel completed, we're now going to get started on the height of the shoulder. So first things first, we're going to start by making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into the top corner stitch of our piece, which is our secondary colored corner. Then we're going to do a single crochet row, pretty much the same way that we did the front panel. So alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row with our secondary color yarn. Then, once we made our way all the way across, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then reinsert your hook into the same top corner stitch that we did for that single crochet row. And then with our primary color yarn, put 1 single crochet into every stitch, working our way all the way across again. Once we made our way down, I'll meet you guys back just to show you guys how we're going to get started on the height of our shoulder. Alright, so we are back. Both of our single crochet rows are completed. So the first single crochet row was with our secondary color yarn. We did a chain up of 1 and cut. Second single crochet row was with our primary color yarn. And once we reach the end, we're now going to get started on the shoulder height. So what we're all going to do from here is make a chain for the same amount of stitches that we had for our last shoulder row within our front panel. Now it should be the same for both of our front panels, so just pick one and count out the amount of stitches. For those of you that have my numbers, I have a total of 19 stitches. So from where we're at, I'm going to make a chain 19. Now that we have our chain, just like how we did for the front panels, we're going to be doing half double crochet rows. But for this portion, we aren't going to be doing any increases or decreases, so super duper simple. To get this started, we're all going to block off that last chain and chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet. Into that chain that we blocked off with a third chain from our hook, insert, pull through 3 with a half double crochet. From here, continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain. Then we're going to connect it into the base the same way that we did for the front panel. Then all we're going to do from there is do our back loop half double crochet rows the same exact way that we did for the front panel when we weren't doing any more increases. We are going to be connecting it into the base the same way as the front panel as well, so just make your way all the way across with back loop half double crochet rows with no increases and no decreases. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I will meet you back. Alright, we are back. We have made our way all the way across with the shoulder portion of our back panel. We did do a chain up of 1 and cut, and now are ready to seam our pieces together. So let's all start by placing our front panel on top of our back. So what we're going to do when it comes to seaming our piece together is we're going to take the front of the front panel and the front of the back panel and close them in together so that once we flip it right side out, all of our seams are going to be along the inside along with the back of our piece. So I'm just going to remind you guys what the front and the inside of our piece is going to look like. So we're all going to start by taking a look at where our Trinity stitch joins with our two colors. One side is going to look a little bit cleaner than the other. As you guys can see, this one looks a little bit better because if you take a look at this side, because when we pulled up our yarn, you can actually see the secondary color peeking through. So this is going to be the inside of our piece. So let's take the two panels that we have, making sure that the front of them is faced in on themselves, and then we're going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Then taking our primary color yarn, we're all going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And all we're going to do from here is put 1 single crochet into every side row. So we're all going to start by finding our first side row, find that top loop within the front, find the same top loop within the back, and single crochet everything together. Again, find that next side row within the front, next side row within the back, and single crochet together. And that's pretty much it. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way down until we don't have any more front panel side rows to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat everything we did here on the other side. Alrighty, we are back. We have just finished up seaming the shoulders. Now from here, before we seam up the sides, we're all going to want to do a single crochet row because we do need to switch out our colors just to make sure that everything is nice and clean. Starting from the bottom, all the way going up and over, and then working down the back panel as well, so all in one go. So what we're going to do is make sure the work is flipped right side out, meaning the seam that we have for the shoulders is now along the inside. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into the bottom corner stitch. So what we're going to do is insert our primary color yarn onto our hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. So this portion is going to be fairly simple. Simply put 1 single crochet into every stitch, and I will meet you back when we have our last single crochet left to do with our primary color. Alright, so we are back. We've made our way down with our primary color, and we have 1 stitch left to do with our primary color. So this is going to be how we're going to switch out our colors as well. So what we're going to do is start off our single crochet per usual. So still with our primary color yarn, insert into that next stitch, yarn over, and pull through. All we're going to do from here in order to switch out our colors is just yarn over with our secondary color yarn. So simply place our secondary color yarn over our hook and just pull through everything. And now we're working with our secondary color. Now from here we can cut our primary color yarn and then tie those two tail ends together just to secure everything down. Now that everything's tied up, we're going to continue to put 1 single crochet into every stitch, and then I will show you how we're going to switch out our colors just once more. So 1 single crochet into every stitch, and then once we reach our last stitch, which we will be putting 1 single crochet into every side row, which we should have 2 side single crochet rows right here. I'll meet you guys back right before we work into that last side row. Alright, so we are back. We have just finished up this single crochet portion with our secondary color yarn, and we're just going to switch out our colors together once more. So we all should have been worked into that last stitch, not into our side row. But now together we are going to work into that side row. So just find that top loop, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. So just like the other color change, it's going to start off as a normal single crochet. Once we have these 2 loops on our hook, place your primary color yarn onto your hook. Then once we have that, we're just going to pull through to finish up this single crochet, then cut your secondary color yarn, and then tie our tail ends together. Then once we've pulled through, we're going to put 1 single crochet into our following side row, which is this one right here. Single crochet. Then just one single crochet into every stitch until we have reached our shoulder seam. So we've made our way up to our shoulder seam. All we're going to do from here before we start working on the other side is just chain one, and then we're going to be inserting a stitch marker into that chain one just so we know where the top of this is going to be. Then working our way down our other panel, it's going to be the same thing. So one single crochet into every stitch. Then whenever we have to switch out our colors, we're going to switch it out the same way that we did on this side and just make our way all the way down. Once we have this completed, do a chain up of one and cut, then repeat everything we did here on the other side. Alright, so we are back and our single crochet row along both edges are complete. Now from here we're going to get started with seaming our sides. So first things first, we're all going to start by making sure the work is flipped wrong side out, meaning the seam that we have for the shoulder is along the outside. Then from here we're all going to be inserting our stitch marker into any stitch where we'd like the width of our sleeve to be from the top. So I have inserted my stitch marker into the 28th stitch from the top, that is not including my middle stitch marker stitch. That's roughly 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters. Now from here, we're all going to insert our hook into our bottom corner stitch of the front and the back panel. Now this is going to be a single crochet seam. So let's all start with inserting our primary color yarn onto our hook. We are going to pull through and do a chain up of one to secure. And all we're going to do from here is a single crochet row working in through both the front and the back panel at the same time. Just like that, let's do that again. Into the next stitch, into the front panel, insert, into the next stitch, into the back panel, insert, and single crochet. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we reach our stitch marker, but we will have to switch out our colors. Now the way that we're going to switch out our colors is the same exact way that we switched out our colors when we just did our single crochet row all the way up and over together. So go ahead and get all of this finished up. Then when we reach our stitch marker, do a chain up of one and cut, and then repeat on the other side. Alrighty, we are back. We have just finished up seaming our entire piece and now ready to get started on our sleeves. So first things first, we're all going to start by making sure that our work is flipped right side out. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into the stitch that we have that's nearest to our side seam within our armhole. Then we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook. I would like to start my sleeve with my secondary color yarn, but you guys can obviously pick whatever color you like. Then all we're going to do for our first row is just a single crochet row. So just chain one and then put one single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way around. Once we have, slip stitch into that chain space and then I'll meet you back. Alright, so our single crochet row is complete. Now from here we're just going to be doing Trinity stitch rows. So I'm just going to do the first few Trinity stitches together and then I kind of let you guys do the rest on your own. So what we're going to do, right after we have slip stitch into that chain space, we're all going to chain one. Then we're going to do our Trinity stitches per usual. So just to make sure we all have that down together, we're going to find that first stitch from our previous row. We do want to make sure that we're not inserting into that slip stitch that we did to connect the rows because it's going to look like a stitch, but it's not actually going to count as one. So just find the top of our previous row single crochet, insert with a single crochet to get started on our first Trinity, then into the same stitch that our single's in, pull through, next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through all four, chain one. That's our first one. To do the next, into the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch is worked into, insert, pull through, next, pull through, next, pull through again, pull through all four, chain one. Continue on with this Trinity stitch until we have 2 stitches left. So we are back. Our first Trinity stitch row is nearly complete. We should all have 2 stitches left. Now this last Trinity stitch is going to be done the same way as all of our other last Trinity stitches. So all we're going to do is insert our hook into the last stitch that our previous Trinity was worked into that next, which is our second to last, and then into that next, which is our last, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4, and don't forget, we're not doing a chain one for the last one. We're just going to single crochet into the last stitch. Then from here, all we're going to do is slip stitch into that chain space that we made when we got started on this row, chain one, flip our work, and then repeat all the way around. Now we're just going to continue to do our Trinity stitches with no increases and no decreases until we get the sleeve length that we want. Now I will be doing a color change in the middle of that, so I'll meet you guys back once I have my color change all finished up. But it's going to be fairly simple. But I'll meet you guys back just to show you where I'm going to do my color changes. Alright, so we are back. I have actually finished up the entirety of my sleeve, But like I said in our previous clip, it's just going to be Trinity stitch rows with no increases and no decreases. So just to let you guys know, I have a total of 51 rows, and for the first section of my colors, I have a total of 14 rows. Second section, I have 14 rows, and last section, I have 23 rows. The only tip that I really have for you guys is if you guys are switching out your colors, make sure that when you're inserting your second color, make sure that you end on an even number of rows for your first color, and then when you're inserting your second color, you have to be working in the opposite direction from what our previous row was working into. So basically, just kind of like how we always flip our work after we finish a row, you're going to make sure that you do that here as well, just to make sure that we get the texture that we want. But once we have the entire length of our sleeve, I will meet you guys back so then we can do the cuff. So once we have the entirety of our sleeve finished, we can now get started on the cuff. So first things first, make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to be inserting our cuff colored yarn onto our hook, which is going to be my third color. So once our hook is into one of our stitches along the edge of our sleeve, insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 just to secure, and we're going to start off this cuff with a single crochet row, putting 1 single crochet into every other stitch. So start by finding our next stitch. Insert your hook into there with just 1 single crochet. Here's my next. We are going to skip that next stitch and then into the one right after. Another single. Again, skip that next stitch, into the next with a single, skip that next stitch, into the next with a single. And we're just going to continue on with this, making our way all the way around and then slip stitch into that chain space. We are back. We have just made our way all the way around with our single crochet row. And now from here, right after we slip stitch into that chain space, we're all going to make a chain the length that we'd like for the cuff to be. Now I'd like for mine to be roughly 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 10. So once we have our chain, we're all going to do a double crochet row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 3. That chain 3 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then from here, we're all going to yarn over and into that chain that we blocked off, or the 4th chain from our hook, insert with a double crochet. So insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Once more, yarn over, into that next stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and continue with 1 double crochet into every chain. I've made my way down with my row 1. Now we're going to connect it into the base. So first things first, we're going to need to make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up, and we all need to be working to the left or clockwise because this isn't reversible. So once we have that all into place, we're all going to start by counting up the next 2 stitches into the base. Here's 1, here's 2. Into that second stitch, we're all going to insert with a slip stitch to connect our row 1, and remember that that slip stitch into the base doesn't count as a stitch. Then we need to work up to the following row, so just slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base. Still does not count as a stitch, and flip our work. Now what we're going to do from here is 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So finding that first stitch into the base, so finding that first available stitch from our previous row, insert in through that back loop. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through everything. Again, into that next stitch's back loop, insert, pull through everything, and we do want to make sure that we're not tugging too tightly after every stitch, otherwise the following row is going to be too tight to work into. But from here, continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch till you're to the end of the row. We are now at the end of our row 2, so let's get started on row 3, and it's going to be a repeat of our 2 previous rows, but now all within the back loops. So chain 3 and flip. From here, put 1 back loop double crochet into every stitch. So yarn over into that first stitch's back loop, pull through with a back loop double crochet, and continue to reach the end of the row. We have made our way down with our row 3. Now we're just going to connect it into the base together, and it's going to be done the same way as the first row. So we're all going to start by counting up the next 2 available stitches. There's 1, there's 2. Into that second stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch. Now our row 3 is connected. Then to work our way up to our row 4, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and then put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. From here, we're going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows, making our way all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches into the base left to work into, I'll meet you guys back so we can seam it all up together. So we are back and our cuff is complete. We've made our way all the way around. We don't have any more stitches left to work into. So now all we're going to do is an outside loop slip stitch seam. So we're all going to start by making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're all going to insert our hook into that first available stitch's front loop within the front panel. Then within the back panel into that first available stitch's back loop. Then from here yarn over and pull through everything on our hook. Let's do that again. Into that next stitch, into the front panel, insert only in through that front loop. Then into that next stitch into the back panel, only insert in through that back loop. Then yarn over and pull through all three. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of one and cut, and then repeat everything we did here on the other side. Alrighty, we are back. Both of our cuffs and sleeves are finished. Now we're going to get started on our bottom band. So first things first, we're all going to want to make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to have the collar portion of our jacket closest to us and the bottom furthest away from us. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into the bottom left corner stitch of our front panel, and it does need to be the left so that we show the front of each of our single crochet rows to make this as clean as possible. But once we have that, we're going to take our primary color yarn and do a single crochet row. And now we're just going to be putting one single crochet into every side row. So start by finding our first side row. This is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with one single crochet. Then finding my next side row, find that top loop and insert with another, and that's basically it. Make your way all the way around with our single crochets. Once we reach the corner stitch, do a chain up of one and cut, and then I will meet you back. So we are back. My single crochet row with my primary color yarn is complete, and I did do a chain up of one and cut. Now we're going to get started with our second single crochet row. So we're going to reinsert our hook into the same left corner stitch that we inserted our hook into for our previous single crochet row, and then we're going to do another single crochet row with our third colored yarn. So just insert your yarn onto your hook. Put one single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way around. When we reach this corner, do a chain up of one and cut again, and then we can get started on the length of our bottom band. Alrighty, we are back. We have just finished up our second single crochet row. This one was with our third colored yarn, and now we're going to get started on the bottom band. Now the bottom band is going to be done exactly the same way as our cuff. So it's going to be back loop double and back loop slip stitch rows, just making our way all the way around to this corner. So I'm just going to talk you guys through it. What we're going to do is, again, insert our hook into the corner stitch that we inserted our previous single crochet row into, because remember, this isn't reversible. Then, with our third colored yarn, we're going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our bottom band to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 8. Then I'm going to do my double crochet row back down, making sure that we're inserting it into the base the same way that we did for the cuff. Then a back loop slip stitch row. Then just continue to repeat our back loop double and back loop slip stitch rows with no increases and no decreases, making our way all the way around until we reach this corner stitch over here. Once we do a chain up of one and cut, and then I will meet you back. Alrighty, so we are back. Our bottom band is complete. Now what we're going to do from here is our front band. We're all going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. The collar of our jacket again is nearest to us and the bottom is away from us. Then we're all going to start on the right side of our front band. So start by inserting our hook into the bottom right corner stitch of our bottom band that we just completed. Then from here we're all going to grab our primary color yarn and we're going to do a single crochet row all the way up. We're just going to insert our primary color yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of one to secure. Then we're going to be putting one single crochet into every stitch. Once we reach our side rows, which we should have 2 right here, one single crochet into each side row, and then working our way up the actual front panel portion, one single crochet into every stitch until we reach the top corner stitch of the front panel. Alrighty, so our single crochet row is complete. And then from here, we're going to get started on our front band. The front band is going to be done exactly the same way as the bottom band, so I'm just going to talk you guys through this. We're going to make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. Then inserting your hook into the bottom corner stitch, so basically the same corner stitch that we inserted our hook into for the single crochet row that we just did. We're then going to make a chain with our primary color yarn, the width that we'd like for our front band to be. I'd like for mine to be roughly an inch or 2 centimeters. So I'm going to start by making a chain 6. Then it's going to be a repeat of our back loop double and back loop slip stitch rows, making our way all the way up until we're worked into our last single crochet row right up in here. Once we have that, I will meet you guys back. Alright, so we are back. We are finished up with our first front band. Now from here we're going to do basically the same exact thing that we did on this side, on the other side, but the only difference is that we're going to be inserting our hook into the top corner stitch of the front panel instead of the bottom, because we want to show the front of the single crochet and the front of our ribbing. So just as a refresher, we're going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then insert our hook into this single crochet row that we have right here with our secondary color yarn. Then working our way down with our primary color yarn, we're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every side row, and then 1 single crochet into every stitch, and then when we don't have any more stitches left, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then reinsert your hook into this top corner stitch, and then we're going to make the same amount of chains that we did for this first front band, then just continue on with our back loop doubles and back loop slip stitch rows till we don't have any more stitches left. Once we have this side completed, I will meet you guys back so we can get started on the collar. Alrighty, so we are back. Both of our front bands are complete. Now from here we can get started on our collar, but right before we do that, we're all going to need to find our middle row within the back panel, or 2 middle rows depending on how many you made, and insert our stitch marker into there. Now, as you guys can see, I just have 1 middle row, so I insert my stitch marker into the top of that row, but if you guys have 2, that's completely fine as well. Just insert your stitch marker into both of those rows. Now from here, using our primary color yarn, we're going to start with a single crochet row around everything. So making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, we're all going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of our left front band. Then insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. Then from here, we're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every stitch, working our way across the top of our front band. Then into every side row, we are going to be alternating between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, working our way up only within the front panel. So finding our first side row. This is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert, starting with just 1 single crochet. This is my next side row. I'm going to find that top loop and insert now with 2 single crochets. So there's 1 into that same top loop with a second, and repeat. So let's do that again. This is my next side row. Find that top loop, insert with 1, find our next top loop, and insert with 2. So there is 1 and there is 2. Now we're going to continue doing this, making our way up until we reach our back panel. We've made our way up to our back panel. Now we're going to flip our work over and just put 1 single crochet into every side row. So working into our first available side row within the back panel, I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 1 single into my next side row, insert with just 1 single, and that's it. Working our way across our back, we're just going to be putting 1 single crochet into every side row, making sure that once we reach our middle side row, or 2 middle side rows depending on what you have, we are inserting our stitch marker into the top of those stitches because we need to know where our middle row is at. Now once we reach the front panel, working our way down, again, alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row within the side rows for the front panel, then 1 single crochet into every stitch. Do a chain up of 1 and cut, then I'll meet you back. We are back. Our single crochet row with our primary color yarn is complete. Now what we're going to do from here is a single crochet row with the same colored yarn that we'd like for our collar to be. Now I'd like for mine to be my 3rd color, so my green. So just insert your hook into that same corner stitch that we insert a hook into for this single crochet row. Put 1 single crochet into every stitch, making sure we're inserting our stitch marker into the same middle row, and then I will meet you guys back. So we are back. Our second single crochet row with our collar colored yarn is completed. Now we're going to get started on the height of our collar. Now it's going to start off the exact same for every single size. So once we've made our way over to this corner, we're all going to start with a chain 2. So there's 1, and then there's 2. We're going to flip our work, and then into that second chain from our hook, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. So insert your hook into that second chain. When we have these 2 loops on our hook, we're going to gently yarn over and pull through both of these loops. Then we're going to connect it into the base. So we're all going to start by finding that next available stitch into the base, insert, yarn over, pull through everything, and that is to connect our row 1. That slip stitch into the base doesn't count as a stitch, so let's get started on our following row. So slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, flip our work. That slip stitch into the base doesn't count as a stitch either, and now we're going to get started on our row 2. So we should all have just one stitch from our previous row. Making sure we're not working into any of those slip stitches into the base, we're all going to find that stitch from our row 1, insert into that back loop, yarn over, pull through both of those loops on our hook. Now our row 2 is complete. Now we're going to get started on our row 3, and that's going to start with an increase. How we're going to do our increase is we're going to start with a chain 2. That first chain is going to count as a stitch for our following row. That second chain is going to be our turning chain, and flip our work. Then starting with that second chain from our hook, we're going to insert into there with a slip stitch. Remember, gently pull through everything, and then we should have one more stitch for this row. So into that stitch's back loop, yarn over, and pull through everything. And now we're going to slip stitch it into the base. So just into that next stitch, insert, yarn over, pull through everything. That slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next stitch into the base, flip our work, and repeat. So since this is an even number row, one back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Then to get started on our odd number row, that's going to start with a chain 2. First chain counts as a stitch for our following row. Second chain is going to be our turning chain, and flip our work. Now starting with the second chain from our hook, insert into that chain with a slip stitch, then one back loop slip stitch into every stitch until we reach the base. Now we have just finished up our odd number row, and we're going to connect it into the base the same way we just did. So just find that next available stitch, insert with a slip stitch to connect our odd number row, and that's it. From here, continue to repeat these 2 previous rows until we get a collar the height that we'd like for the collar portion to be. Then I'll meet you guys back along the base, then we can finish up with the rest of our collar. I am back with the height of my collar. Now I have a total of 21 rows. This is just about as long as I'd like for my collar to be. So all we're going to do from here is just back loop slip stitch rows with no more increases, no decreases. So we're just going to put one back loop slip stitch into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work, and then put one back loop slip stitch into every stitch again. We're going to continue doing that until we reach our middle stitch marker stitch. When we do a chain up of 1 and cut, then repeat everything we did here on this side. But once we reach our stitch marker, do not do a chain up of 1 and cut, because we can go straight into the seam from there. Alrighty, so we are back. The second half of our collar is complete. Now I already went ahead and seamed up my collar together because this is going to be the same seam that we did for the cuff. So just to talk you guys through it, we're going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to be doing an outside loop slip stitch seam to make it look like another back loop slip stitch row. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then we can finish up with our pockets together. So we are back. One of my pockets is already completed, so we're going to be doing the other one together. So first things first, we're all going to need to make 2 panels per pocket, and this is what they're going to look like. We're all going to start by making a chain for the same amount of stitches that we skipped for our pocket slit when we did that. For those of you that have my numbers, I skipped a total of 14 stitches, so with my primary color yarn, so that it can match, I'm going to do a chain of 14. Once we have our chain, we're all going to do a half double crochet row. So start by blocking off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then we're all going to yarn over and inserting our hook into the third chain from our hook, insert with a half double crochet, and continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain. Now that our row 1 is complete, we're just going to do back loop half double crochet rows. So as a refresher, chain 2, flip our work, and then put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. We're going to continue on with our back loop half double crochet rows with no increases and no decreases until we have a panel the length that we'd like for our pocket to be. Now just as a reference, when it comes to doing our half double crochet rows, we want to make sure that the amount of rows that we have doesn't exceed the front panel, because obviously we want it to be able to be hidden underneath the panel. Now go ahead and get your back loop half double crochet rows completed, and then I'll meet you back. I am back. I have the total length that I like for my pocket to be. I'd like for mine to be roughly 4 inches or 10 centimeters, so I now have 9 rows. Now from here we're going to be doing one slant row to help our pocket slant downwards so that if we put anything in our pocket it doesn't slip out. So that's going to be fairly simple, but it will have different stitches for everyone. So all we're going to do is start with 4 single crochets, 4 half double crochets, 4 double crochets, and then if you still have some stitches left over, treble crochets until we reach the end of the row. So let's get this started. Chain 1 and flip. Like I said, we're all going to start with 4 single crochets. Then we're going to be doing 4 half double crochets, then 4 double crochets. Then if you have any stitches left over, treble crochets till we don't have any more stitches left. So now that we have one of these panels completed, we're going to do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat the same thing that we did here and make one more panel. So now that we have both of our panels completed, we're now going to sew it onto the panel. So we can put one of them away for now, and looking at our pocket slit, we're all going to start with the side that's nearest to our side seam first. Now this is going to be the same general idea for both sides. So to do that side first, we're going to take a look at the inside of our piece. So making sure that the tallest end of our pocket panel that we made is nearest to the top, because we do want this to slant downward and not the other way, we're going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of the pocket panel, and making sure that we're inserting our hook into the pocket slit that's nearest to our side seam, we're going to insert into that top loop. Then from here we're going to do just a slip stitch seam, so yarn over, pull through everything. Now this is going to be fairly simple. We're just going to insert our hook into the first stitch, into the front panel, first stitch into the back panel, and all we're going to do is yarn over and pull through everything on our hook. So yarn over and pull through everything. And that's basically it. Let's do this again. Into the next stitch, into the front panel, next stitch into the back panel, yarn over and pull through everything on our hook. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way down. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So we are back. We have just finished up the innermost panel for our pocket. We did a chain up of 1 and cut. Now we're going to do the top layer that is going to be seamed into the pocket slit that's nearest to the front of our panel. So we are back. We have just finished up the innermost pocket panel. We did do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then what we're going to do from here is we're going to seam the top pocket panel. So we're going to grab our other panel that we have and then place it underneath that slit that we have, making sure that the tallest end of our panel is nearest to the collar. Then we're going to close our front panel down and then insert our hook into the first stitch into the front panel, then into the first stitch into the back panel, and then with our third colored yarn we're going to do a single crochet seam so that we have a really nice piping just like this one. So all we're going to do from here is insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and making sure that we're seeing the front of our single crochet row just to make sure that it's as clean as possible. We're going to insert our hook into that next stitch into the front, next stitch into the back, and single crochet everything together, and that's it. Continue doing this, making our way all the way down. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Alright, so we are back. We have just finished up the detail for our pocket, and now the last thing we're going to have to do is just seam our 2 pocket panels together. So this is going to be super simple. All we're going to do is just insert our hook into one of our side rows and simply put 2 single crochets into every side row. Once we reach the bottom, we have some regular stitches to work into, so 1 single crochet into every stitch, then 2 single crochets into every side row, making our way all the way back up again, and that's it. When we don't have any more stitches left, slip stitch into any. When we don't have any more stitches left, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat everything we did here on the other side. We are back. Now that both of our pockets are all finished up, we are all done. Last thing we're going to have to do is just weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch y'all in the next one. Bye!